Can you think of a better appetizer to the Thanksgiving feast that you've got on Thursday? It's Big East Shootaround live from New York City. John Fanta here with you as we've got a ton of storylines to get to. Feast week titles on the line already tonight for the conference with Butler taking down Missouri last night 63-52, and the Dogs did it with defense. They lead the Big East thus far in scoring defense, just allowing 53 points per game. And tonight, the 6-0 Butler Bulldogs will meet the 7-0 Stanford Cardinal, 9:30 Eastern Time, ESPN2, coming up later today. I talked with LaVall Jordan, the Butler head coach, about the Dogs' unbeaten start, and we'll get to all that and more. You can follow at Big East MBB on Twitter. Also on today's Feast Week edition of the show, we'll compare Big East teams to Thanksgiving food, and we'll have a feature on Marquette shot blocking artist Theo John, the reigning shot blocking leader in the conference, and he'll bring me on the court to show me what it's like to get a shot blocked by him. Big East Hoops headlines. How about Villanova? And how about COLLIN GILLESPIE? He leads off our headlines because he had a coming out party in the Myrtle Beach Invitational. Averaged 20 points a game, 7 assists per game. And what GILLESPIE showed this past week in South Carolina is what Jay Wright has done with point guards in the past. He just can flat out distribute. He can be that Ryan Arcidiacono, Jalen Brunson type of player. And that's the key for Villanova to be at their best. No shame in that loss to Baylor, a really good Baylor team led by Jared Butler. The Wildcats getting led by GILLESPIE. Second headline, Georgetown. They proved something. Thought that they showed us something at Madison Square Garden last week. The win over Texas, and then coming off of that and giving Duke a good fight. Patrick Ewing's team is ready to turn a corner this season, but after a home loss to Penn State, the thought was, where are they? What we found out at the Garden is they could be for real. Now, can they sustain it? And finally, number 3, a feast of games is on the docket this week. The conference is 46-12 on the season thus far. Statement wins. Those opportunities are out there for the league this week, and I think that that is the part for the conference that, as a league, you'd like to achieve here. This is a huge week to do so. Outside of those couple of Saturdays in December, this Thanksgiving week is precious. Opportunity after opportunity. And it really starts with Seton Hall and Oregon tomorrow night after 9 o'clock on ESPN2 in the battle for Atlantis in the Bahamas. That should be a lot of fun. And we'll get to the entire Feast Week docket here coming up on the show. Let's take a deeper dive, though, into the Big East with Stadium College Hoops insider Jeff Goodman. Great to talk Feast Week with Stadium College basketball insider Jeff Goodman. Jeff's the perfect guest because he's been spending time in South Carolina, was at the Charleston Classic for the first couple of days of that, and then went over to the Myrtle Beach Invitational for the championship game. Jeff, let's start there. Jared Butler and COLLIN GILLESPIE going back and forth in a punch-for-punch title game between Baylor and Villanova. While the Bears came out on top, let's look at GILLESPIE. He averaged 20 points a game, 7 assists a game in this tournament. What did the Villanova junior point guard show you?
So I will be forthright on this. I was talking to Fran Fraschilla right before the game, and he said, I'll take COLLIN GILLESPIE with the top point guards in the country. And I said, you're out of your mind. You're crazy. I think he's good, but he's got to show me he's more consistent and just show me that he took another step. I think he's the key to the Villanova team, but I'm not yet sold on him. After the game, I not only apologized to Fran Fraschilla, I also told COLLIN absolutely glowing remarks just because he's come so far, and his command of the team now, John, absolutely blew me away. He does everything. I mean, obviously we know he's mentally tough. He has all the intangibles. He can make shots from all over the court now. He makes people better. He tries to defend. I do think he's one of the best point guards in the country, and I hate to change my view on him so quickly, but I hadn't seen the first 2 games in Myrtle because I was in Charleston watching 4 games a day, so I needed to see it with my own eyes, and I did.
With GILLESPIE this much improved, Jeff, and the fact that Villanova's got those wings of stretch players in Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, Sadiq Bey, Cole Swider does a great job stretching the floor as well. How far can this Nova team go?
National title again. I really believe that, and I talked to Jay Wright about it post-game, and, you know, we're both on the same page, and I think you probably are too, and there's just not a dominant team, and Jay said that. He said usually there's like 3 teams that stick out that are dominant talent-wise, and usually Duke and Kentucky are 2 of the 3. Well, they're both down this year, and Jay knows, listen, he's got Gillespie now, and those other guys have to make progress. He said, listen, we've learned a lot about our team here, but we've also learned how far we still need to go.
The battle for Atlantis is quite arguably the best field of any of these multi-team exempt events. And in the quarterfinals, you get a top 13 showdown as it stands now as we do this interview. And in this tournament, 4 of the top 13 in America, North Carolina, Gonzaga, Oregon, and Seton Hall. We've got the Ducks and Pirates on Thanksgiving Eve. I don't know about you, but I'm excited for this game because it's Peyton Pritchard versus Miles Powell, and that is the perfect appetizer to Thanksgiving. What determines this game?
Can I give you an even better one? I think you have 2 of the elite shooters in the country in Miles Powell and Anthony Mathis, the New Mexico grad transfer. And I think he's kind of changed this Oregon team. And that's where, to me, I think it's far more important that Miles Powell defers and worries about making his teammates better over the next few months. And even if it comes at the expense of a loss or 2, they're going to be in the tournament. We know that. So to me, seeding is fairly irrelevant this year because, again, as we talked about, not a lot of disparity. So I would be more concerned about the fact of the supporting cast. And Miles, I think, understands at certain points he's going to have to bring those guys along, get their confidence up, get them to take the next step, rather than watch him go for 30 or 40 every game.
Let's move on here to the unbeaten DePaul Blue Demons. Where are you on Dave Lato's group?
You know, listen, when you beat BC, it's not like I'm going to say, all right, you've arrived, and now you're an NCAA tournament team. Let's be real here. And the win at Iowa was a good win, but I'm not sure Iowa's an NCAA tournament team. So I've got to see what DePaul will do in league play. This league is going to be a war every night. I mean, the great part is, if DePaul is the 9th or 10th best team in the league still, they're going to get like 7 in, okay? No doubt about it. Can DePaul get to 6 or 7? If they can get to 6 or 7, they have a chance of getting the NCAA tournament. I think the top 3 are a lock. I do. I don't see anybody, you know, whatever order you want to put, Villanova, Seton Hall, and Xavier, I think those are going to be your top 3. And I think Villanova's number 1.
What team intrigues you the most in this league?
Oh, Georgetown. Georgetown, definitely. No doubt. Here's my deal on Georgetown is, and I've said this over and over, I think it's the best job in the league, better than Villanova. I really do. And I think they should be making the tournament every single year. So I want to see what Patrick Ewing can do with this group that is clearly talented enough to get to the NCAA tournament. They got 2 really good guards in Akinjo and Mac McClung, and Yurtseven's really good up front in terms of if he stays on the floor. That's the most important thing for him. But listen, Georgetown certainly fought Duke, right? They did a good job, but now they got to translate this thing into wins, and they shouldn't just be squeaking into the NCAA tournament, in my opinion, John. They should be the 4th team in this league, and maybe they can crack the top 3. I don't see it, but based on their talent and their guard play especially, they should be number 4 in this league.
It's Jeff Goodman coming from South Carolina. Jeff, happy Feast Week. Enjoy.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving, John. Thanks for having me. And
you can head to stadium.com to read Jeff Goodman. Follow him at Goodman Hoops, Goodman Hoops on Twitter. He's got great stuff and was in South Carolina with full coverage this past weekend. Let's turn to the Marquette Golden Eagles and their shot blocking leader in Theo John, who's at the top of the Big East with 3 blocks per game thus far. For this Marquette team, this week is a crucial one. They head to the Advocare Invitational down in Orlando and will take on Davidson out of an Atlantic 10 conference that has had a strong start to this season. Marquette could potentially draw USC in the semifinals, which would be a really intriguing matchup. But for the Golden Eagles, a good win over Purdue, a tough loss to Wisconsin. We know they've got Marcus Howard. Can they find consistency out of the supporting cast? Well, part of that supporting cast is the junior in Theo John. We hit the court with him, and he told me and showed me what goes into a Theo John denial. What goes into a block shot? Well, we're talking to the reigning Big East leading shot blocker from last year. It's Theo John of Marquette. Theo, thanks for the time.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So last year was just a block party in Milwaukee. You were all over the place, rejecting people.
Yes, sir.
What goes into a block shot?
Just kind of being there for your teammates, doing what it takes to win, and if that's going to get a block, you gotta go get a block. So,
how much do you work in after hours when nobody's watching on things like that?
a lot of it is just knowing timing. So watching the best shot blockers like Dwight Howard back in his day, Ben Wallace is my favorite player. Just watching a lot of the shot blockers and just kind of how they time stuff out, where they're positioning on, and a lot of it's just natural talent. So.
All right, so I'll be a guard. This is the only time this year. So you're gonna go down low. We're gonna enter it into you. I know some of your blocks are coming in transition, but talk us through this when you're thinking about things, the guard and the post.
Well, lots of times if you're on the ball, you're just trying to wall up. Your blocks either come from help side or when the ball guy gets rolled into the post. So right here, I just try to wall up, make sure I don't foul. I got to work on that and just make the shot as difficult as you can.
All right, we ready? Here we go. Jake's gonna catch it and then boom.
You got to at least go up and give me a challenge.
All right, now you can't, yeah, should he challenge you a little bit more?
That was good. Like I said, right here, I'm probably not going to go for it. I'm just going to try to play it as good
Right,
as
so
I
talk
can.
us through once he turns.
Once he turns, you just try to go straight up, both hands up so the ref sees it's non-foul. And like I said, on ball, it's kind of hard, but you get it done if you have to.
How do you balance that mix of not committing the foul?
Man, it's hard. If you guys watched film for my first year, it was a huge learning curve. Lots of fouls, and then you just kind of got to adjust to the refs, know each ref and how they're officiating each game. And some refs will allow more contact, and you have to play by that. So if you know they're calling it a close game, ticky-tack calls, like I said, this position I'm probably not going to go for the block. Whereas if one of my mans, or say Marcus, was rolled down into the post, I just wait till the defender turns their head, and that's where I come into the block.
Should we try a different angle? I'll get a step on you here. Yeah, I mean, just, it's not going to happen. It's not, should I try baseline here? Try baseline? Go reverse of it? Even the ball fake didn't work. Theo John, thanks for having some fun.
No problem, no problem.
Last month, we compared Big East Hoops teams to Halloween candy. So on this feast week, our great holiday graphics pack is back as we compare teams to Thanksgiving side dishes. And there's turkey included in this segment. Mom always said I should have salad, so we'll start with the salad. And you're thinking, John, salad on Thanksgiving? You need some greens in your life. And what do I think of? I think of St. John's basketball, because if you're going to play 40 minutes of hell under Mike Anderson, you better be fit. Talking with Mustafa Heron and LJ Figueroa, they talk about the fact that they've had to get in the gym early in the morning and keep up on their greens. There's some walnuts in that are fantastic. So when I think of the Thanksgiving meal, St. John's Red Storm, they're going to keep the greens in their diet even on the holiday because they're going to be running the floor. Next, you accompany the greens with some cornbread. And I think of the golden fluffiness of the Golden Eagles. Is there some butter around? Not that cornbread needs butter, but I like it. Marquette, cornbread. They can light it up from 3. Marcus Howard as a senior, this is a golden year for him. And when I think of Marcus Howard and his scoring ability, it just says the tender fluffiness that is cornbread. Stuffing. Stat sheet stuffing is done in Omaha. This week it'll be done in the Las Vegas Invitational. Catch it on FS1 Thursday night when Creighton meets San Diego State. The Jays. Oh, there it is. They come off to me as stuffing, the beauty of live television. Why? Because they can light it up from 3. They stuff the stat sheet. My friend Steve Lavin always says that. They share the sugar, but man, their 3-point stroke is as buttery as this outstanding stuffing. Not sure who the catering company was for our Feast Week meal, but their stuffing is top of the line. Mashed potatoes. Let's turn to mashed potatoes before we head to the grand finale. I think of Butler. Rich, hearty, good mashed potatoes. That's what the dogs do. It's who they are. And you add some gravy to it. When Sean McDermott and Jordan Tucker start knocking down some three-point shots. And that's Butler basketball. It's the Butler way. A good, hearty meal. Butler mashed potatoes. Finally, you just heard about the gravy. We'll pour the rest of it right onto here because the DePaul Blue Demons are all gravy, baby. Off to a 6-0 start. Their best since the mid-'80s. The Blue Demons in action tonight against Central Michigan. They can make it 7-0. They've got a big one at the barn on Friday against Minnesota. And then Texas Tech next week. DePaul, the sleeper team in the Big East. Thus far, the Blue Demons have been all gravy. And that's some good gravy. So, there you have it. St. John's salad, Marquette cornbread, Butler mashed potatoes, Creighton, the stat sheet stuffing, and DePaul gravy, which means I got to top it off. Get out the Ready Whip, because you know what? When I think of Feast Week, I think of some pumpkin pie. And a Thanksgiving meal is not complete without some Big East hoops and a little dessert. Thanks to our producers, Bobby Mullen, Ben Piasek, with the great ideas on that. It was not just me thinking of foods to compare. And to executive producer Rick Gentile, who signed off on it, as we wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Finally, we got to turn to the rest of this week. There's plenty of big games. So take a look at the schedule here. And these aren't the only games on the week, but man, all eyes on Atlantis tomorrow. Seton Hall and Oregon, top 13 showdown. This tournament features 4 of the top 13 teams in the country. And if Seton Hall's going to make a run to a title this week, they'd have to go through Gonzaga and potentially North Carolina as well, if all things hold the way that they could in this tournament. Marquette, told you about them down the Advocate. I think it's a big week for Marquette, and just building a profile, who they actually are. You're going to see them a bunch this week, 3 times in 4 days. Big week for the Golden Eagles. Providence, can they get on track? More importantly, can they hit a shot from the perimeter is the question. The Friars have struggled from deep. They need to find their offense. They need to find it here in Anaheim. And then Creighton, FS1, Thursday night from Vegas. Blue Jays and San Diego State. That's some Vegas after dark action if I've ever seen it. As you see, the Big East off to a strong start. How about the teams that were picked 8th and 10th in this conference are the unbeatens in the Big East. You've got DePaul and Butler, both 6-0, and both in action tonight. Let's look at DePaul. They're in action at 8 Eastern time against Central Michigan. So you're 6-0. It's your best start since the mid-'80s. And for the Blue Demons, they lead the Big East in not only field goal percentage on the offensive end, but field goal percentage defense. They've done everything right thus far. And they've got quality wins. And I know what you could say is, well, John, those are bottom-tier teams in their respective leagues. But here's the thing. You go on the road, and you notch power conference wins over Iowa and Boston College. Look, those speak for themselves. Those teams speak for themselves in the competition they're going to be going up against. That's quadrant 2 territory right there for DePaul. They've got Central Michigan tonight. They go to Minnesota on Friday at the barn. Could they win that Minnesota game? Yes. And then how about the Big East, Big 12 battle tipping off next week with a potentially unbeaten DePaul team and number 12 Texas Tech, the reigning national runner-up. That says fun. And you look at the Blue Demon schedule, Minnesota's solid. Texas Tech, a very, very good team. And Buffalo's always been a solid team in the Mid-American Conference. Credit to Dave Lato, and credit to this DePaul team. They've got Charlie Moore at point guard. They've got a 2-time Big East Freshman of the Week already in Romeo Weems. The Blue Demons are validating that, yeah, they are not going to finish in the basement of this league, at least in my mind. We'll see how far they can go up in this conference. Only a matter of time till league play starts, and that's why this week is so important. From all of us on Big East Shoot-Around, enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday. Have a second helping, and I'll advise have a third helping because it's Thanksgiving, and do not look at the pounds. You can do that when Big East play starts. Come New Year's Eve, you can make New Year's resolutions and then watch Big East basketball. So from all of us, happy Thanksgiving, travel safe, don't slip on the ice, and enjoy your holiday. I'm John Fanta saying so long from New York City. They're already camping out for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.